Unmuting. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da.
Hi guys! I hope everybody is having a great May long. And for all of my friends in the United States, happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope everybody's having I hope you're having great weather. Everybody's been dealing with weather. We are having absolutely stellar weather today. The sun is out. There's a few little scattered clouds. It's absolutely beautiful. And we're going to hit 24 degrees today. Can't beat that. For a beautiful, beautiful day. And what else could we do on such a sunny, bright day but paint some beautiful lemons? This is such a fun piece to do. I was playing with an idea and it didn't work. So I had to redo it. And then I redid it again. It's one of those ones that it took me like 3 shots before I got where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted the lemons. I knew I liked the composition of the lemons. I liked everything about it. Problem is that every time I painted the background, I hated it. Nothing worked. So I thought, you know what, go back to what is the most basic and the simplest possible design for using a background, and what works better than a simple stencil. So that is what we've got today. Something with a French country vibe, which I love. So lots of fresh lemons, some bright, really sunny, summery greens, and of course a butterfly. And well, it's me, so it's got to have lettering in it. So we're going to do some fun lettering as well. So we have lots of stuff to cover in this one. So, but before we get started on that, we're going to talk about our giveaways today. We have 2 really fantastic giveaways. Each of them contains a nice little brush set from Dynasty Brush. Plus, we've got some awesome drawing pencils in there. A gorgeous set of 12 drawing pencils. It's a really, really nice set. And, of course, Renee and I always throw in some other goodies as well in a nifty little create bag. My mouth isn't working today. And so those are our giveaways for today. We have 2 of those. To get your name on the wheel, all you have to do is join us in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Make sure you say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. We would love to know. And if you're ready to get started on our Bon Appetit French country design.
Lemons.
So am I. Lemons. Thank you. Apparently English escapes me today.
Lemons.
So if you're ready to get started, so am I. Memorial Day is at the end of the month? I thought it was on Monday. I thought the 2 were combined.
Today's Victoria Day.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm a bit early then. Oh my goodness. Brenda Owen is heading to Greece.
National Patriots Day.
Patriots Day. Okay.
That's in Quebec.
Okay. Well, for us, it's Victoria Day. Yep. Monday is Victoria Day.
I don't see Memorial Day there.
U.S. Memorial Day. No? Okay. I'm sorry. I was under the impression that it was Memorial Day weekend. Oops. Sorry, guys. But I do have to say happy birthday to Donna Pulse. Hello. And happy birthday. I hope you're having a great day. And I have to say hello to a few people in here today. Eileen Carroll.
Memorial Day is Canada Day.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
Way out.
Right. I'm way off. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, U.S. Memorial Day is the 25th. It says here. Next weekend. Boys, I'm gifted. I started a whole conversation in here.
I'm confused.
Pat Rowe. And Wanda Nunez, hi from Texas. Oh my goodness, I bet it's warm there.
Yeah, they got snakes.
They get snakes. Yeah, they got snakes. We have snakes too. And then Chantal Purdy, hello from Gatineau, Quebec. Salut, madame. And Linda Stevens Johnson, Memorial Day for us is May 25th. I'm sorry, I'm a bit early. For some reason, I thought, I had seen an advertisement saying that it was a long weekend and that you had I thought it was Memorial Day, but my apologies. Karen, the cookies are nearly gone. And Kelly Davis, you're just going to celebrate twice. Good for you. That is the absolute positive way of looking at this. Um, oh, Renee just took Maze upstairs, and Taz keeps making her presence known down here. As long as she doesn't come with more spiders, I'm good. And Lynn from Victoria, BC. Victoria's beautiful city. I do have something for you guys. One thing I would like you to do is, isn't this cute? My pal Deb, her Canadian site is touchofprimsy.ca. She cut these fabulous daisies for me, like she did the sunflowers. They're friggin' awesome. And I spent yesterday afternoon painting daisies. So made this one into a little pin. Super fun surface. So if you're looking for them, we have a bunch on the website. And you'll be happy to know we also have a sale on the website right now. There's a coupon code at the top of the page on the main page of both websites. And the coupon code, the coupon code gives you 30% off of all surfaces. And we also have, there's e-packets on sale, and there's a variety of things on sale, but there's a 30% off coupon for wood surfaces. And the daisies are super cute, and they make for a really pretty, like almost like brooch. I would dress them up. I would use like a little bit of glitter in here. And I haven't used my my UV resin on them yet, but I will, because I love that stuff. So really fun. If you're looking for the download for this, there is a free download in the free download section on the website. So there is a cute little project sheet for that. So this is the piece we're going to be working on today. This one is called Bon Appetit. I really love this surface, this half circle. I have these on the website as well. These are also cut by Deb at Touch of Primsy. So if you're Canadian and you want to order, you can order them through the Touch of Primsy website. I absolutely love this surface. I use it quite a bit. This one is 12 inches from side to side and looks absolutely adorable in a little stand. It looks so cute. I think it's so pretty. It's just to have this tucked in the corner of your kitchen on your counters. It's a nice little piece. And it's a nice surface to work on. So this is what we are aiming for today. Deb keeps a lot of my surfaces. So if you're looking for really nice surfaces and you're Canadian, go and check her out. She's got super cute stuff of her own on there, not just mine. She does all sorts of really cool stuff. So to begin this piece, all you need to do is base coat it with 2 coats of lamp black. And I use the Decor Americana. This is my favorite paint for decorative painting. The pigment load is great. Everything about it is fantastic. So if you're looking for the lamp black on the Decor website, there is a coupon code in the header for this video. So you can, pardon me, you can use the coupon code, give you a nice little discount on your order from Decwart. This one, the order number is DA067, and you can order it in both an 8-ounce or in a 2-ounce size. Lamp black is one of those colors that I have to have in an 8-ounce bottle because I go through so much of it. And there's certain colors that I do use the big 8 ounces, buttermilk, whatnot. I wish they would put asphaltum in an 8-ounce bottle. I think that would be very helpful. So the first color that we're going to use is cobblestone. This is one of my favorites. I love this color. I loved it so much that I painted my bathrooms this color. I just love it. I love everything about it. It's just a nice, warm, soft gray, and it works really, really nicely. Yes, Donna, it is a great companion to limoncello. So we're going to use a stencil. This is a 1/4 inch check. Now you can use a harlequin, a diamond pattern. You can use a small one, you can use a large one. You can use any size you like. I just rather, this sort of had that sort of chef's thing going for it. So I wanted to go with a smaller one, but I also turned it on the diagonal. I didn't want it to be a typical checkerboard, so I turned it on the diagonal, like so. And I'm going to push it up until, there we go. And I'm going to tape this in place. I don't want this to shift. Cobblestone. I love Nancy versus Tracy. What's that all about? Cobblestone's a great color. And we're going to use it sparingly. Hi, Sabrina. Thanks for joining us. And Cindy. Oh, my goodness. Good to have you. Yeah, those higher areas, higher elevations are getting some snow. So we're going to use a little bit of cobblestone, and you want the brush almost completely dry. We want a very little paint. I'm going to burnish a little bit on my tape. And we're going to use a light touch. And we're just going to put these on very faintly. We don't want them fully opaque. We want them very light. And you're going to stop about a ½ inch away from the outline of the lemons. You notice I have mine traced on here. So nice little pattern. And I'm stopping roughly ½ inch from the lemons. So what you want is sort of that faded look. So I'm going to remove the stencil carefully. And then I'm going to line it up again. Like so. And I'm going to do the same thing. I want them a little brighter at the outside edge and then lighter as they come in towards the center. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring them in across the bottom just a little bit and a little up the sides, like so. So the idea being is just going to be a very soft look. Pardon me, guys. I'm going to be clearing my throat a lot. I seem to have something going on with my voice today. So, again, nice light touch, circular fashion, change directions frequently. Don't need a ton of paint. We just want a light dusting of color. And we want it to stop about a ½ inch away from the lemons. Oops, those are a bit too bright, but we'll deal just like that. So we've got a little bit. I want to bring that across a bit more, methinks. There we go. I kind of like it just sort of lightens, gives you a nice light look back there. Very nice. Cobblestone, the reason I use that on black and on dark colors is that it gives you nice contrast without being really harsh. So it's a very soft contrast and it works really nicely for a variety of things. It got a little bright here, but that's an easy fix. So once I've got that stenciling in place, I'm going to use my big angled shader. And I'm going to use a little bit of asphaltum. And this one is DA 180. Allergies are bugging everyone here in Ontario. Oh my goodness. Well, we have not had high pollen levels. And we still don't. It was just a few few things popping up here and there. I mean, we're still just very early spring. But this seems to be an ongoing issue for me. So we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum, just a little. And we're going to put a nice wide float. Now I thin this, I don't like using it full strength. And then we're going to put a nice light float of asphaltum around the outside edge, just like that. And this just softens that black, tones it a little bit so it doesn't look quite so harsh. Black is a lovely color to work with, but if it's just plain black, it tends to look a little cold and perhaps a little utilitarian. So I always like to come in with a little bit of asphaltum just to warm it up a little. Doesn't need to be a lot. And there we go. So I'm going to dry this quickly. There's something about a French country design. Having this little check on the diagonal like that, it reminds me of chef's scarf. You know, you'd see a French chef would wear a scarf and it would have this black and white check. But I didn't want this to be a really garish contrast, so I wanted it soft. And that worked. Remember the bright white that was over here? It was a little too bright. I toned it down with that asphaltum. And I love that it just warmed up this black a little bit. So one of the first things we're going to do is to lay in a little bit of warm white. And we're going to be selective about this for the time being. I'm going to use a nice big round brush. I've got a nice big number 5 here. That is very true, Patrick. Yeah, and Facebook supports me. Yes, they do. Thank you. Thanks, Nance. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white. I've thinned this out a little. This is my favorite white. I very rarely ever use a titanium white, simply because I find that titanium white is a little harsh. It's a little cold, and I like the warmer tones, so I lean towards the warm white. And this one, again, color number is DA 239. So we're going to start with a little bit of warm white, and we're going to paint the lemons in. And I like base coating and following the shape of the lemon. That way, all of the brush marks follow the same direction. And you don't end up with a whole bunch of little stop and start marks, if you know what I mean. The daisy pin is fun to paint. I wanted something that looked like more like a real daisy and less than a cute daisy. And so that's what I did. You got to have some fun with this stuff. I mean, really. And I thought, you know what, daisies are summery. They're not difficult to paint. You can play with the design a little bit any way you want to. You might notice in the cover of the piece, there's a yellow one. So I did a brown-eyed Susan. So you have lots of options. You can do some really cool things with it. So, 1 lemon. Now the reason that I use a coat of warm white, I'm essentially using it like gesso. I'm putting a barrier down. When you're working on a dark color like this, a dark blue or a black, or any color that is particularly dark, it's a good idea to lay in a little bit of gesso or white paint or something lighter and more opaque. simply because you're going to be working with more transparent colors over top. And by having a little bit of white to interfere with the base color that you've already got there, your colors are going to be brighter. Oh yeah, great idea. Use the pins. I'm French country. I love country, anything country, rustic. French country appeals to me. Tuscan, old Tuscan style appeals to me. Farmhouse appeals to me. Perhaps my farmhouse is a bit more rustic than what's been popular the last few years, but I really love that look. Anything vintage really appeals to me. So it tends to crop up in my design work quite frequently. Well, you tell Carl I said you're welcome. That's too funny. Now, the fun part about doing this kind of thing is that you can customize this any way you want to. If you prefer something with say a blue or a green background, there's nothing to stop you from painting this with a different color. I gravitate towards black. I like the contrast. I think it just makes the other colors feel that much brighter. So I tend to gravitate towards darker backgrounds, but that doesn't mean that you can't choose a different color. I think this one would look so pretty with a bright blue. Like a blue and white gingham in the background would look so nice. So if you wanted something a little less French country and perhaps a bit more North American style country, bright blue gingham and with all that yellow, I think it would be gorgeous. So I'm going to dry this. And I thought today we'd try a slightly different technique for doing the roses. Oh, I love Tuscan country. It's very warm and very pretty. We're going to do the roses. Leaves. What is wrong with my mouth? So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to take that white into the leaves. Oh, yes, Donna, it would be very pretty on black plum. So we have all kinds of leaves back here. So I'm going to just pull in some white on those. And I like to leave that thin, narrow space between elements just to make the base coating a little easier, make the shading and highlighting a little easier. And that way elements don't get lost. Now, the reasoning behind doing the leaves is exactly the same as the lemons, because the color that we're using is a very bright green. We are using a color called New Leaf. A New Leaf is, it's one of those greens that I think by itself I would probably not use, because it's a little garish to my eye. I tend to like colors that are a bit more subdued, but this particular green, I rather like, especially for something like lemons, tropical fruit in general. I think it's a really great green for that. So we're getting there here. Now the base coat for this does not have to be, particularly perfect. I'm never really encourage anybody to try to get things perfect anyway, because it's virtually impossible. So, and it causes more stress than it needs to. So there's our leaf. I really wanted this to have that, that high yellow tone. I want every element of this to be very bright against that black. And I think that this works very well. Linda, I will take care of that. Obviously, that's a mistake. How did it get from $2 to $5 is anybody's guess. I was on there the other day and there was a whole bunch of things that were all jumbled up, but we recently had an update from our provider and I noticed that it caused a few things to go a little sideways. So obviously that's one of them. So thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. And we'll take it. We'll take care of it. So there we go. We've got white. Now, we have a little butterfly over there. I'm going to make sure I get all of these leaves. I was painting this thing the other day and I realized I had it all finished and realized that I had missed 2 leaves. Couldn't figure out why one of the flowers looked wrong. Maybe because it was hiding behind one of those leaves and I didn't paint the leaf. It looked so silly. So there we go. And I'm going to get those 2 small leaves on either side as well. Because this does make a huge difference. So here's our little butterfly. Now our butterfly is going to be yellow on the inside. I'm going to just paint the inside of these wings. Just those little strokes, what look like comma strokes in there, we're going to paint those white as well. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Just painting those in. There we go. Look at that. Hey, Lori. You're going to Niagara Falls. Lovely. It's a nice time of year for that. Hi, George. Good to have you with us. Oh my goodness. Well, at least you got them all out of the way now, Linda. Got the earthquake. If you haven't seen it, Linda Morgan put down, we had quite a day in Michigan a couple of weeks ago. In one day, we had wildfires, tornadoes, and an earthquake, all of which are not common here. My stars. A tornado. Well, having lived in Manitoba, we had tornadoes, but not really close to the city, but and wildfires we never saw, but but we did get a blizzard in August. Most people don't believe that, but yes, we did get a blizzard in August. It lasted about 5 minutes. So I'm going to take some white and I'm going to make this a little bit brighter in here. These little wedges, it kind of looks like a wagon wheel in there. I'm going to paint these a little brighter than the rest of it. Just like that. This part is very loose. You don't really have to worry about too much at this point. There's a cat playing with something upstairs. Right over my head, I can hear it. There we go. So paint in those wedges. Easy peasy. we've got leaves done. We've got all of those wedges done. Tigers, lions, and bears, tornadoes, earthquakes, and fires, how the world has changed in one lifetime. No kidding. And Wendy Warner, welcome. Robert Pearson, hello from Texas. My goodness. I used to travel to Texas quite frequently, either to teach or usually to teach. And every time I've gone, there's been some sort of weather thing. Every single time I've been there. But I absolutely love Texas. I just thought it's beautiful. I loved some of the desert areas, and that just kind of blew my mind because we don't have that here. Oh, what is this? Oh, Bonnie, that's a wonderful thing to do. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Mother Nature really has her knickers in a knot. Oh, not just Mother Nature. But I got a funny feeling she's going to be sorting some stuff out. So I'm going to make sure that this is good and dry. And then we're going to do a little bit of base coating. We're going to start with the leaves. This is new leaf. This is one of those colors that when it first came out, I went, what am I ever going to do with that? Let me tell you, I changed my tune very quickly. This actually has turned out to be an excellent base color for leaves for things like oranges, grapefruit. When you really need a high yellow, lots of yellow in the leaves, this is a fantastic base color. The other thing I like about it is the coverage. It actually covers very, very nicely. So look at that. One coat over that white. Look how nice and bright that is. And you're going to paint that in, taking a little care just to keep it smooth. It's an absolutely stellar green for this type of thing. And I'm only using one coat. I'm not doing multiple coats of this green. I'm just using one because we're going to be putting a number of other colors on top of it. So we really don't have to worry about getting it fully opaque. But it is a lovely green. And it doesn't look quite that bright on camera, but it is quite a bright green. And it works very nicely for our purposes here. So if you're looking for that new leaf, this is a new color in 24. The color number is DA422. Hi, Jan. Jan's here, and Charmaine Bannister. Everybody in the Pacific Northwest had their retreat or conference last weekend. Some amazing classes. If you live in that neck of the woods, it's an awesome opportunity to go take with some really great teachers. So, I really love this green. I just think that this one, when you want that high yellow, that high citrusy green, this is a really great one to start with. Now we're going to be using margarita, and we're going to be using a little bit of black green as well to get that. I want that high acid, really great contrast in these leaves. And we're also going to be using a little bit of reflected color, so that's going to give these leaves an even nicer look. And I'm going to leave painting the flowers until after the leaves are done. You'll see why. There's leaves, flowers tucked in behind these leaves. There's flowers tucked in, like brought into the foreground. So we need to keep them nice and crisp, but I wanted them to not look like they were glued there. And so I have a tendency to like to do them last. So here we go. Fabulous green. And I know that if I miss any, somebody will tell me. Hopefully. Because it's not unusual. There we go. Oh, your red car has an orange tint because of the pollen. Well, our pollen isn't flying yet. It will be in the next few days because the maples are just starting to come into bloom. And I have massive maple trees on the property here, so one in the front yard and 4 in the back, and then we have that huge oak tree back there too. So, and never mind my neighbors, they've got oaks and maples, and I have an empire maple and 2 sugar maples. What did I miss? Oh my goodness, that would, Andrea, that would be gorgeous. What day is summer where you live? What day? 21st of June. Ramp up your allergy meds. Oh, I'm going to have to ramp up everything. So we've got leaves. I'll probably scare the pants off you with this next technique, but super simple. So I'm going to make sure this is good and dry. And then I'm going to show you a trick. One of the things that people struggle with is, especially when we're going to do this type of leaf, is where that center vein is. And I'm going to show you a trick that I use so it just makes things a little bit easier. Especially when you have to base coat something completely and you lose the diagram. So I want to show you very quickly how I gauge that. You can do it with a pencil. And I think my chalk pencil is empty. So I got to grab a graphite pencil. There's an HB. So on your leaves, people always wonder how do you decide where your center vein is going to be and which side the highlight and everything goes on. So when I look at these leaves, this one curves down and out. So I want to reflect that in that center vein. And I want that leaf to look like it's turned. So instead of looking at the leaf as having to divide it right down the middle, I come up about 2/3 of the way up the leaf. And then I follow the shape. You know how it's drifting down like that? I do the same thing with this. And then I pull that down to the point of the leaf. And the one thing that I find that most of us struggle with is deciding which side is the highlight. Now, in the decorative arts, it is important, yes, but not imperative that we worry about those things. In this particular case, this one has multiple light sources, so we're going to have light hitting in a variety of places, so that makes it a little easier. So I'm going to come down here, again, 2/3 of the way, follow the shape of the leaf. 2/3, follow the shape of the leaf. Now, when you do that, it allows that leaf some shape. And it's a bit more realistic because no leaf just is static, right? But it gives you a very nice flow. So everything has a flow. They go down and away. Now, the thing to remember is that on the narrow side is where your shadow is going to go. That's the thing to remember. Your shadow is going to go on the narrow side. So we're going to shade this with a little bit of plantation pine. And now this one is going to be done in layers. So I'm going to grab an angled shader and a 1/2 inch. Oh no, I'm going to use the 3/8. If I can find one. There we go. So it's just always easier to remember to shade on the narrow side. So on the narrow side, here's your center vein, shading on the narrow side, just like that. And that narrow side is going to give you a nice curvature to the leaf. The leaf is going to bend, just like that. So anytime you are trying to decide which side the leaf goes, which side the shadow goes on, it's always on the narrower side. So that's just to show you where that center vein goes. So we have our round brush. I need to get a smaller one. Here we go. I've got, this one is a number 4. I've got a number 4 round. And we're going to use Margarita, which is this very high acid yellow green. This one, the color number is DA299. I love this green. I use this for almost everything. Anytime I'm painting something green, I end up using this color, whether it's in a little bit or a lot, but I use this color a great deal. So we're going to take a little bit of Jo Sonja Fast Dry Glaze. And we're going to use a comma stroke, just like we did last week. I was showing you the basic stroke, comma strokes, like for painting daisies in 1 hour. Now you're going to show how to do them for leaves. So on the lower side, you're going to start just below that center vein, and you're going to leave a space, and you're going to put a comma stroke like so. You don't want it to come off the leaf, but almost to the edge. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Of course, they're going to be smaller because you have a smaller space. Just like that. Comma stroke, comma stroke. There we go. So even in those areas where you're not so sure, just tuck them in. Just throw them in. But on that long side, that wide side, see, on that short side, they don't have to be perfect. You just tuck them in as long as they follow that same shape. And this has an awesome effect. So, and this is where, remember I said where it's important to learn how to do comma strokes in both directions, this is where it's important. Being able to pull comma strokes like so on both sides. And again, on that narrow side, they don't have to be perfect, as long as they follow the same direction. And I know they look really gaudy right now, but I promise you they're going to look great. Oops, there we go. Even on those little tucked under leaves here, take the time to make sure you get a little bit in there. I kind of like it when the strokes sort of run out instead of coming to a perfect point. I like it when they kind of run out because it comes in line with those slightly ragged edges on these leaves. So here we go. Again, like I said, they don't have to be perfect. I've still got a little leaf in here I gotta deal with, but that's okay. Now these smaller ones out here, we're not going to do that with. We're going to use a different technique for those. So these leaves, again, I've got a little leaf back here. There we go. Having that little line in the center actually makes things a whole lot easier, because then you can adjust where your thing goes. It's going to disappear into the paint anyway, so don't kill yourself trying to get it done. Now we've got two little leaves in here. I'm just going to put small strokes in just to give them the color. So there we are. So there is our second coat of color. So that little system of dividing the leaf into thirds and bringing that line a third of the way up just makes those leaves, it gives them a completely different look. Now we can come in and start shading these leaves. Now I'm going to use a little bit of plantation pine. I'm not thinning it too much because I love this color. So I'm going to start where the leaves tuck under. These little ones, they're too small. We're going to do something different with those. So I'm going to float underneath that leaf and behind that lemon, like so. This is sort of a larger U-shaped float. And we're just establishing the depth in behind those lemons. And I love using plantation pine because it's a nice dark green. And it really pushes those lemons forward. Now we've got a shadow along this one to here, down the center vein, so shade from the top of the leaf, there we go, down that center vein. Look what happens. So now that leaf curves towards the back. And you're going to use that float to separate all of these leaves. That's your color to separate all of them. Now that little U-shaped float is going to give you the lift we need. It separates the other leaves. And it's easier to just do this float first and then do the center veins. That way you're not wiping off the first float. And then now I'm going to come out to these little leaves here, and we're going to put a nice little float like so. U-shaped float right at the base of the leaf where it joins that stem. And then we've got these two little ones in here. I put comma strokes on them, but honestly, really didn't need to. They're just little tiny filler leaves, and so they're going to disappear into there anyway. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to grab some black green. This Irish moss. I think Irish moss might be a little too bright. If you haven't got plantation pine, try black forest green. That's this one here. You want a nice deep transparent green in there. This black forest green will give you a really almost a tropical tone to it because it's got a high level blue in it. So this color works really nicely for doing that first shading. But you can come back in at any time and do it too. So you have a choice. You can use a little bit of black green. I've got a brand new bottle. Hi, Deb. And Carrie Henderson, hello. And Dorothy Holgate, hello. You can be late. I don't hand out, notes. So I'm going to use a little bit of black green. And this color really stands out to me. This is where you get lots of depth. Evergreen is another color that is really nice. Plantation pine is a little more earthy. Black green is nice and deep, but a little on the gray tone. But lovely for shading these high yellow greens. You get that really sharp center vein. This is a way to get really great depth very easily. So there's that black green. I'm going to bring that down to the center vein. It's pretty. The black green actually really gives you great contrast and really nice separation. So if you're looking for a color that's going to give you a nice shadow, especially on greens, I I like black green because it's almost like immediate gratification because it has that really deep tone. But I like having that plantation pine in there first. It just gives you, there's a nice little bit of depth to it. I prefer to layer transparent colors. So if you look at these leaves, comparison to these leaves, that little bit of black green just gives them that little extra depth. So I'm going to a little bit in there. That black green just really plays up those little shadows. Wherever you need that contrast, that depth, you're going to find that if you use multiple layers of color, you're going to get it much more efficiently. And the colors are just going to be really nice. But it's important to keep it transparent. If you put it in without blending it out, it tends to get very flat and very heavy. Monty, try refreshing your browser. There's been so many updates lately. I found that if I refresh my browser, it helps. And then we've got that one there. So there is lots of color on there. I'm going to dry this. And then I want to show you what a little bit of that black forest green will do. I know what you're thinking. It's like, is she ever going to highlight these leaves? Yes, I am. I promise. Such a yummy way to paint leaves. I love the look of it. These leaves take on a real sheen. There we go. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to try it with a little bit of that black forest green. I love the tone of this. It's very, very pretty. Now, you can do this if you want to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And I might not be able to do it. I don't think there's much paint left in that bottle. All I need is the scotch. So, a little bit of black green. Black forest green. Good heavens. This will amp up those leaves. Look at that. I love that this brings all of that brightness back, but you don't lose any of the depth that you had with that black green. I absolutely love this color. We got oodles of depth. And I love that tone, that beautiful, dark, rich green. Looks spectacular. I'm going to bring some of that in here too. And then I'm going to bring it down the center vein. So there is your depth. Now you know why I only use one base coat, one layer for a base coat, because you really don't need more. You're going to be putting on so many coats of green. Layers, layers, layers. Lots and lots of layers. The more layers, the more depth. And that black forest green is just gorgeous. over top of all of those yellows. Look at that. Yellow greens are a pain, simply because they're so transparent. And yellows are so hard to work with because they don't cover well. So when you can amp up all of those fabulous yellows by using multiple layers of other greens, look at that. And these are loose floats. I am not being overly tidy with these floats. But it does give these leaves a tremendous richness that's very appealing. And these leaves needed that. They needed that little extra something, because they have to compete with those bright yellow lemons. There we go. So I'm going to dry that, and we're going to highlight these leaves. Hello there. So we've got a little bit of margarita. Remember we used that in the leaves? I'm going to use just a touch of margarita. And this is our highlight color. We're going to make all of this jump. So I'm just bringing a little of that margarita right along that center vein. And then I'm going to come down to that leading edge at the front of the leaf. And then a little bit on the top side. Just a little. It doesn't need to be much. Because we use so much of that yellow in the leaves, that margarita, having just a little of it at the edges makes such a difference. This acts as a reflective color from the lemons. And it gives our leaves lots and lots of attitude. Because that margarita is fairly transparent, we can use a float of it thinned. I don't like using anything full strength. Use it thinned, and then you get this really nice crisp center vein. Put a little on the other side just to amp up that outside edge. Now, if you really want to brighten these, bring a little touch of warm white into your margarita. If you find your highlight isn't bright enough, just bring in a little bit, just a touch of warm white. Rory Morgan, traveling, oh, you're from Glasgow, Scotland. Lovely, lovely city. I loved Glasgow when I was there. I went so that I could go to see my grandfather's home. And the town that he was from is now part of Glasgow. When he lived there, it wasn't. There we go. So that little bit, margarita and a touch of warm white, gives you that brighter highlight at the edge and on the top of the center vein. Just like so. Just a little. Having that little bit of white in there just makes those leaves look a little slick. So pretty leaves. I love the texture that those comma strokes bring to the leaves. So there we go. Now, we do have a fair amount of yellow, and we even have some orange in here, in these lemons. So I'm going to take a little bit of orange. Hi, Robin. Yeah, I have all of them. You can bring a little bit of orange into the edge of these leaves in a few places, not all of them, but a little bit, tiny little float of orange flame just at the edge of the leaves. Look what it does. There's a tiny bit in there. It just gives the leaves a little extra something. Anytime you want to bring in a little extra color or a little extra realism to something, just pull in a little bit of color from something in the main item. So in this case, we've got lemons, but in the lemons, we have a little bit of orange just to kick that yellow up a little bit. So I brought a little of that orange out onto the leaves. So now the fun part begins. We can start painting lemons. I'm going to give myself a clean palette. Comme ça. And I'm going to be working with this. This is Baby Duck. Such a great color, this Baby Duck. And the color number for this one is DA 421. This was a new color last year. Holy smokes. Cost of shipping is ridiculous. Thank you. I love lemons, just like I love pears, but lemons have a distinctly European flavor to them, especially when you're talking about home decor and things like that. And that really appeals to me a lot. I'm going to grab a nice big round. I got my number 4 back, or 5, sorry. And we're going to base coat our lemons with Baby Duck. Such an absolutely fabulous yellow. And again, I'm following the shape of my lemon. And you can bring that color up nice and tight. We have a lovely little lemon blossoms in here too. I've simplified them. I made them smaller and simplified them a little bit because I really wanted to keep the lemons as the primary focus of this piece. Baby Duck, such an awesome yellow. And again, I rarely use more than one coat for a base coat. And you've seen why, because everything I paint's got multiple colors in it, so. You guys in the chat discussing the shipping costs, believe me, I get it. We thought that by using UPS, because for a while there, UPS was the most inexpensive way to get anything shipped. only to discover that people on the other side were really getting smacked with tariffs. Now, most of the time, we try to make sure that if you're going to be charged, that it'll be minimal. We do everything in our power to ensure that. Unfortunately, we can't absorb all of it, but I will say we've started shipping almost exclusively with Canada Post now, because anything going to the U.S. is far less expensive. And then the only thing that I have to pay on my end is essentially the $2.99 for the processing fee. So that part, is a little easier to bear, but we do try to keep it as inexpensive as possible. But the reality is shipping is expensive right now. And you might have noticed that we were doing like 3 giveaways, but the cost of freight has just been insane. So on average, the giveaways were costing us up to $30 to ship one envelope. It was nuts. So trying to find ways to do it cost effectively, And I think everybody's in the same boat, so. There we go. I'm going to empty my brush here. So we have lemons. Look at that. I'm going to switch to that smaller round, and we're going to paint each of the wedges inside this lemon with baby duck as well. I love this color. This baby duck is just absolutely phenomenal. I use it a lot. I'm on a home decor kick, in case you haven't noticed, so a lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing in the next little while is going to be along that line. Things to decorate your home with. It's coming into summer. This is usually where I change out all my drapes and and change out my bedding and the cushion covers and things like that. So it's more summery, and so this is also when I change out a lot of the stuff that I have, on bookshelves and shelves and countertops and whatnot. And I'm feeling very French country. We didn't have a choice. Charmaine, like the cost of freight has just been insane. I mean, the companies provide us with great giveaways. I cannot complain. The only thing that I provide is the cost of shipping, but the shipping has just been ridiculous. So we're just trying to keep things so that we can keep going. That's all. That's what the website does, keeps us going. So we have a lemon. I know. It's time. Love lemons. So I'm going to dry this. And I think I'm going to put one more coat. Yeah, it is a surprise, but there's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. I do have something coming for the guys. It's an older project, but I think it'll be fun. I think we will have fun with it. So while you have that baby duck out, we're going to paint the inside of our butterfly. The little butterfly gets that same baby duck. There we go. I considered using a stencil to do the butterfly and then changed my mind. Because I think it needed something a bit closer to realistic. I thought it would be a lot more fun to do it this way. So I'm going to oh, Bonnie, that's sweet. Thank you. No, I know not everybody does, but it's a nice way to reward those that come and watch on a regular basis. And we appreciate you. That's why we try to make sure that every order gets something fun. We still have some great little artist pins, too, that are going into orders. So we're having fun with it all. Oh, my goodness. Hello. Come on down. There it is. Okay. So, this did not cover all that well. I don't need it perfectly opaque, but I need not to see streaks of gray through it. So I'm just going to put a quick wash of baby duck over it just to even it out a little. There we are. Nobody has asked me for what's for dinner tonight. I am making flatbread pizzas. Oh, Dawn, we appreciate it. Thank you. Oh my God. A chub rub? Yeah. Bonnie, that story has entertained a great many people. I think the one that I remember the most. Oh, what time is dinner? 6:00. The story that I remember the most, mainly because it was, kind of scared me, to be honest. I had an asthma attack in the bathroom at LaGuardia Airport, New York. Well, I'm glad. I am so glad. It's awesome. Karen Marburg, I'm selfish with my Saturday mornings. Absolutely, Is Debbie Easton not here? I think Debbie's probably with family. Is she not here? It's her job to ask for what's for dinner. I know, that was kind of surprised me too. So we are coming along. I'm loving the leaves. I love my leaves. I think my leaves look great. So, next we're going to tackle these lemons. One of my new favorite colors is this. This is salted caramel. I go through this stuff almost as much as I go through asphaltum. I love salted caramel. I mean, I love salted caramel, but I like this color a lot. I use this quite a bit. So, salted caramel, if you're looking for it, the paint number is DA420. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Patty. You got in to see the shading on the lemons. Well, the shading on the lemons is pretty simple. And this is where we establish a little extra depth. I love this. It's not really, yes, it does taste wonderful. Paint's wonderful too. This establishes a lot of depth. I love this color. And instead of being a brown, which is what most people would think of it as, I think of it more as a golden yellow. And we're going to float in behind that leaf and along the bottom of our lemon, like so. And this is a good time to have a mop handy. So you can just stipple a little bit with the mop. Now, the reason I'm using the mop is not to soften the float, but to create a little texture. So when you lay this mop in, just tap it straight up and down, it has a tendency to muddle the float a little bit. So it gives you like a little bit of texture in there. So I'm going to float in behind that leaf and up and around our lemon. Comme ça. And then take that, just a light tap. It's going to create just a little bit of texture on your lemon. Now our center lemon here is going to get the same treatment. I'm going to use a little bit of that salted caramel until those two shadows meet. Now, if I stayed with just that little bit of salted caramel back there, these two would run into each other. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this salted caramel just a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of orange flame and I'm going to mix it with just a brush mix with that little bit of salted caramel that is on my palette. I'm going to make sure that that's dry. And I'm going to start right here with a very light float of that salted caramel mixed with a little of that orange flame. And I'm just going to bring it up. And that gives us just enough of a difference to separate those two nicely. So back into the salted caramel. And we're going to have a little shadow here because of that. There's a little flower there. And we're going to deepen the shadow in here, like that. And then when you get down here, we're going to walk a little shadow out, almost like a triangle shape, right here. Just a little one. And then a little float like this over here. And what that does is it shapes that sort of, I'm going to use the word nipple, because that's what it looks like. So, same thing here. I'm going to put a little shape there. That little float gives it a little dimension, and then I'm going to make that little triangle like that. And a little float on this side. And then deepen your float over here. And then as you work this, walk it out a little bit. We want to leave just a space right about here for the highlight. And then while it's still wet, just interrupt it a little bit with that mop. So because we have a light source that is coming from different directions, in multiple directions, we can put a highlight on here, we can put a highlight here and here, and we're fine. So while you have that salted caramel out, you're going to use a little bit of it just to put a weak float right at the outside edge of those wedges. Small float, doesn't have to be much. So there's our caramel. Salted caramel is a great shading color for these bright yellows. For that baby duck in particular, I love this color. So we've got nice little float. Look at that. So our lemon is really starting to take shape. You feel like you need some lemonade. Huh? So now I'm probably going to scare you a little bit. We're going to use a little bit of this. Now, if I was working with fluid acrylics, I would grab my diarrhea yellow, but in this case, we're going to use a little bit of saffron. And the color number for that one is DA273. I love this, and you're going to love it too, because we're going to put a wash of this over our lemons. So you're going to thin it out quite a bit. Use a little bit of glaze. You can use water too, but use a little bit of glaze. Really thin this color out. You want it more like ink. And this is going to make our lemons pop. So a little bit of that saffron. Look at our lemons. So look at how much more vibrant that one is compared to this. Again, pick up a little bit of that saffron yellow. Put a wash of that over your lemon. Now, somebody is bound to ask, why wouldn't I just base coat it a brighter yellow? Well, it's not that I wanted to base coat a brighter yellow. It's more layers, more depth. When you put that saffron over top of both that baby duck and all of that salted caramel, you get a nice rich tone. It doesn't just change the base color, it changes all of the colors. So when I bring it in over top of this one, I still get, look at that. I still get that nice bright yellow, but now it's singing. So I am a big fan of layering in lots and lots of colors. I love using transparent layers. Watch this. Same thing, into that slice lemon. Look at how wonderful that looks. So I love that you get that zing, that punch of color out of it. It's like varnishing something. The first time you varnish something that's got high contrast, you lay that varnish on and every one of the colors just starts to sing. That's what I love about it. It's that punch, that visual that hits you. So I'm going to give this a little bit of depth, a little bit more depth. Yellow submarine. I'm going to take a little bit of asphaltum and I'm going to thin this out quite a bit. I don't want this color full strength. And this is where we're going to deepen that shading. It's a nice wide float. And it's only going to be on the bottom, like so. In behind that lemon and along the bottom. Along the bottom. And in behind, like so. So it's not the prettiest float, but again, helps give you that texture. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it. So now we're getting some really nice separation. Now each of those shadows is going to get deepened a little bit. I prefer to do things in layers of transparent color so that you have control. So here is where we need that deeper color right there. Let's get that softened. Now I'm using just the tip of that angled shader because I don't want a ton of color in there. There we go. There we are. Lemons are looking good. I'm loving those. So we're going to switch to a smaller angled shader. And we're going to put a little work. Hi, Janet. Going to put a little work into this sliced lemon. I really want this to stand up. So I've got a little tiny bit of orange flame on my brush. And I'm going to put a float of that over the salted caramel right at the outer edge of each of those wedges. Now I'm going to let it come down the edge just a bit. We want that heat. And it's just to give that outside edge a little more punch. Here we go. So I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to grab some warm white. Now, all the way around that center is not the prettiest. So I'm going to grab a rigger or a liner, whatever you're most comfortable with. I'm going to use the Zero Rigger because I'm comfortable with a Zero Rigger. And we're going to paint right up to the edge of that yellow with warm white. And this is about the only time that I really take a great deal of care, is making sure that this line is nice and clean all the way around. Of course, I had to grab like the ugliest rigger brush in my stash. I've got one rigger brush that has a tendency to split. And I refuse to get rid of it because, you know, riggers are like hen's teeth. So we're going to paint all the way around this lemon wedge, lemon slice, sliced lemon. And it's also where I like to clean up a few little things. Like there's a raw edge here that I'm not happy with. But that clean line of warm white will fix that. Et voila. There it is. And then we're going to paint into and around those wedges. This is a chance to clean up anything that doesn't look great. So if you're not happy with your wedges, say they're too thin or too thick, this is where you get to clean it up a little bit. I love this part. So there's little spots here where you can crisp up and clean up. And then you're going to paint into the pith. You're going to come in all the way to the center of the lemon slice. And clean up all the way around each of those little wedges. Especially if you're not happy with them. If you know they're too long, they don't have a nice edge, they're not super pretty. We have a ways to go yet, so you have ample time to fix things up. Here we go. So this lemon wedge, or this sliced lemon, becomes a little more vibrant when you start putting in this white. It becomes quite dynamic. Ooh. So it's starting to look more and more like a lemon slice. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to have a little fun with a liner. Are you hearing paws? Yes, you are. Those paws are maze running across the living room floor. So I've got a 5/0 liner, and I'm going to pick up and thin a little bit of warm white. And then inside each of those little wedges, you're going to put 3 teardrop shaped strokes. So one here, and one here. So we've got those 3 tiny little strokes inside. Now I like 3 because it fills the space enough, but it doesn't overwhelm each slice, like each wedge. Here we go. And I like a liner for doing this simply because it will give you a teardrop shape with fairly little effort. Oops. Here we go. Try that again. There we go. And they don't have to be perfect. If you get them perfect, great. But if you don't kill yourself about it. Don't get too bent out of shape. Look at that. So we've got lovely little lemon. Now you can go in and touch up little spots wherever you feel that they're not quite, in this one I'm seeing a little bit of gray coming through. So I just want to fill that in a little bit. Awesome. I know I don't like even numbers. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to come back in with that saffron, and we're going to subdue those little comma strokes a little bit, just a little. I'm going to thin out a little of that saffron yellow. We're just going to put a little of that over top of that center. All that does is just tone those little stripes, those little teardrop shapes a little bit so they don't come screaming out at you. Just tones them, just a touch. Look at that. So they're still there, but they're toned a little. So I'm going to dry this. And we're going to do a final shading on our lemon. I'm going to switch to a smaller angled shader. I'm going to pick up a little asphaltum. And I want to deepen a couple of those deeper spots behind the leaves, just like that. Down in there, those are the areas I want to get the darkest value in. And then I want to bring a little of that heavily thinned asphaltum up onto the pith. Just like that. It's a weak float. It doesn't need to be strong. Little float on that there. I like having a little asphaltum on there. It keeps it from be glaringly white. Here we are. Thank you, Mary Lynn. So that little bit, don't be afraid to deepen shadows. And if you find that perhaps something is looking a little too dark or a little too heavy, you can just, it will balance out when we put in our highlights. So here we go. I have balanced out my shadows. So as for the highlight on these lemons, we want them to be reflective of the texture and the skin of a lemon. Now, we've created a little texture with the mop brush. Oh no, I just knocked over the jar of fast dry glaze. Oops. Pardon me for a minute while I clean up this travesty. Good to know that it isn't just you guys, right? I'm going to have to do a major cleanup. Oh my God. Renee's going to kill me. Stream Deck sitting in a puddle. Oh my gosh. What a mess. What is it? It's a 2-ounce bottle. Why does it get this far? Oh my goodness. What a mess. Sorry, guys. I have to clean this up or I won't be able to continue. Here we go. Did you hear that? That was me freaking out because I spilt. I drowned a keyboard a week ago. Don't ask me how. I have no idea. I don't know how I managed to drown a keyboard. All I know is that when I went to do some work on my computer, my keyboard was full of water. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. There, I'm human. That must be so disappointing. Okay, let's try that again. I won't have to varnish the other one because it's got enough glaze on it that I'll probably have to chip it off. Oh my gosh. Fortunately for me, I had already sprayed this with a couple of coats of matte spray, so it's like it never happened. Okay, so I can show you. This is where I ended up. This is where I started. See what I mean? I had to make some adjustments. There we go. Okay. I've managed to avoid catastrophe. Yes, it does happen. Oh, that's me. Lori. I never claim to be perfect. Absolutely never. Okay, now where was I? Right. We're going to texture the highlights on our lemons. If I can find my deerfoot. There it is. So I'm using a deerfoot Deerfoot Stippler. And this one is from Dynasty. It's a 3/8. 3/8 just seems to be the color that I like. I like this one. It's a softer brush. It's like pony hair. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white on my Deerfoot. And I'm going to stipple it on my palette because I don't want this to be too heavy. And our highlight area is right here. This sort of open area. And I'm going to use a light touch. And we're just going to lightly stipple in that highlight. Like so. I don't want it to be super bright because this is a textured surface. So we're going to have sort of a dry look to it. And then there is going to be a light impact point right about there. Now, I like using a Deerfoot for this because it's soft and it's fairly uniform. And then I can lightly dry brush a little bit, but I like the texture it creates. It creates sort of almost like a pinhole type texture, and it's very soft and very dry. If you have a small dome stippler, will work fine too. I recommend using something that has a fairly coarse hair. This one, although it's soft, it still has a fairly coarse hair, so I can bring in a little brighter highlight like right there. So here we go. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to like put a little dry brush of white there, just a little one. And again, if I use just a light stippling, I like the color that I get. So it's a very soft, very dry. What about the cornstarch? We'll fill you in at some point, Lucy. There we go. So lovely, lovely lush lemons. Now I have, where did my small angle go? Here it is. I want to brighten a highlight. So I'm going to grab a little bit of warm white. And I'm going to bring a little float, just a tiny one along that edge. Just a little. I'm going to pop a little opaque or semi-opaque stroke on the light impact point. It just makes, look at how it makes those lemons glow. So now we have flowers and a butterfly to deal with. I'll make sure everything is good and dry. So we have our butterfly. We're going to treat the butterfly just like we treated the lemons. So we're going to shade with a float of salted caramel right through there, closest to the body. And the same on the other side. It's going to cover about 1/3 of the width of the wing. So I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange flame. And I'm going to put a nice wide float of that so that it covers about half of the wing. Now, it's very thin. It is not full strength. Such a pretty, pretty color. And then, just like we did with the lemons, I'm going to take a little bit of saffron yellow. I love this. And we're going to paint over the yellow and the orange. And look at that. Makes our butterfly nice and bright. Et voila. Now the fun part about this butterfly is that it's a little more realistic, but not realistic. So we're going to use a little bit of lamp black. So I'm going to thin out a little bit of lamp black. And this is where we're going to clean up our butterfly. Now I have a pencil here handy that's probably going to make things a little bit easier for me. If I can find it. There it is. Pencil. So I'm just looking at my line drawing like, how the heck? Maybe I should just do this. Save myself the heartache. There. Yep, I think that's what I'll do. I rarely do this, but at least it might give me a little more accuracy, and I'm more worried about the accuracy than I am anything else. So I'm just going to quickly sketch in the shapes that are going to be on this leaf, or on this wing. Oh my goodness. Bunny leaves. If you don't know what I mean by bunny leaves, you're going to have to go back to Easter 2021. Oh, that didn't work. I had the graphite upside down. Okay, try it again. I'm having a day. My tongue doesn't work. I knocked over the paint, the glaze. And now I've forgotten how graphite paper works. Oh, aren't I just steaming along here today? Okay. Honestly. So now that I've got the shapes in, of course, I've got the shapes a little too. Wasn't quite lined up, but close enough. So now I'm just going to stroke in the lines for the pattern or details on the wings. I got frustrated with something I was working on the other day, and ended up using a marker to do this because it just wasn't working for me. Which happens, but it was so frustrating. So, liner brush, fill in all of these fun little details. I am not above using a marker. If something isn't going well, and a marker will do the trick, abso-flippin-lutely. Here we go. I'm using lamp black for this. Every once in a while, I have a moment. I seem to be having more moments lately. There we go. So I'm going to paint the body with lamp black as well, so that I have good separation between those two. There we go. So our butterfly is looking a little bit better. He's still a little wonky, but that's okay. So I'm going to dry this really well. I'm going to grab my black gel pen and my white gel pen. And I'm going to grab a Posca pen. I love my Poscas. There. I'm going to fix a couple of things. My liner work is not great today. I'm just going to fill in a couple of bits with my rigger, because this is just looking a little sloppy. There we go. Okay, it just wasn't quite covering well enough. Oh, this is my favorite liner brush. I have another one that's a 10-aught or a 5-aught. This is the 10-aught. My 5-aught has got a hair that just has a mind of its own. And it has from the day I took it out of there. So it goes off like left to center. It drives me absolutely insane. So we have a lovely looking little butterfly. So I'm going to take my rigger and we're going to add some dots to the wings. And they don't have to be perfect. They're just all we're doing. Oh, I put my finger right in it. Again, see, I'm having a day. The other day, it's inherent. I swear to God, I did the same thing. So we're going to put just a bunch of little dip dots in the black border of our butterfly. Again, they don't have to be perfect. And this is where you can have some fun. I'm using a white gel pen. I don't want to put a hard line around my butterfly, but I do like to put a little interest along the edge. I don't want a hard line, but I want it brighter. So I use my white gel pen just to put in a rough line around the edges, but it's not a solid line. It's sort of broken. Little, I call them little dashes and dots, I think is the best way to describe it. You can do it with a liner brush if you're feeling patient. I am not. And I frequently use my pens. You guys know that. I love my pens. So I'm going to separate the wings on our butterfly with a float of asphaltum. And it's going to go right here. Almost straight across, just below the head. And it's just a weak float. It's a tiny little float. Just enough to give the wings a little definition. Right there. Doesn't take much. But there we go. And then you can use your white gel pen to put in your antennae. there's your butterfly. So I'm going to dry this really well. I know they're monarch colors. That's not really a monarch butterfly, but super simple. So all we have left to do on this piece is the lemon blossoms and the lettering, which is really not that much. But the flowers are going to take a little bit of work, simply because we're going to use small brush. So I'm switching over to, if I can find it, I have a teeny tiny round. Eensy beensy teeny tiny round. If I can find it. That's not it, but I need that too. Okay. There it is. Found it. I like a nice tiny round. This one is a number 2. And we're going to be using warm white. I love warm white. Now, these little flowers back here are pretty straightforward. So we're going to, you guys have seen me do this 100 times. I know you have. There's some petals back here that are sort of tucked in behind things. So I'm just going to stroke those in. I like to take care of those little things in behind first. As seemingly unimportant as they may be, if we don't take proper care of them, it can mess up the rest of our piece. Don't want to do that. So I'm going to fill these in very carefully, just like that. And I'm always pulling the paint back towards the center of the flower. It is important. So all of the brush marks follow the same direction. So here we go. You've seen me paint those nonsensical 5-petal flowers. So these are painted in much the same way. So I'm using a small round. Boy, did I mess that up. There, okay. Small round. And we're going to, good God, now I'm picking up hair. Okay. At the outside edge of the petal, we're going to put a small comma stroke. And the same on the other side, and then one straight down the middle. Comma stroke, straight down the middle. So it gives you sort of a ruffled effect to that little flower. So we have another one here, comma stroke, one down the middle. So keep the comma strokes small and try to keep them contained to the space of the petal. And this is why I leave the flowers to the very end, because I like how they make use of the shadows that are already there. So we've got this really pretty little layer going on. And we've got these ones over here. Again, comma stroke, down the middle. 3 little strokes to make a pretty little petal. Nice and tidy, little flowers. You don't need to be big and elaborate. They are not the focal point of this. They're meant to keep things light. And then we have one more little flower over here. Again, odd number. I like my odd number flowers. Here we go. Don't they look nice and delicate? I like stroking these in because it keeps them transparent. Look at the texture that that little stroke creates. So we've got these lovely little flowers. Hi, Kathy. Kathy from Michigan. Oh, Bernie. I'm not seeing any of the Facebook group on here. So I'm going to dry this and then we're going to tackle something. I'm going to use our baby duck. We're going to pull that from there. I need a nice big brush. There we go. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush handle. Now, if you do any of that dot work, mandalas and whatnot, you might have a stylist to do this with. But we're going to put a nice big dot of yellow right in the center of each of these flowers, just enough to overlap. Oops, that didn't work well. There we go. Just enough to overlap with the petals. So now we've got centers in our flowers. So I'm going to dry this really well. I'm loving the butterfly. Now the center is going to take a minute to dry because that's a lot of paint. Oh, good. I wasn't seeing any of the Facebook chat here. Thanks, Tara. And Charmaine. All I could see, I only have a small, narrow window where I can see what's in the chat. So when it moves really quick, and if there's a lot of conversation coming from one side or the other, that's all I see. So I can only see about 6 or 7 comments at a time. So you guys kind of disappeared. There we go. So I'm going to use my 3/8 angled shader. And I'm going to use a little bit of that orange flame. And I'm going to come over to one side. I'm going to put a nice little float of orange flame on the center, like so. Just on one side. Oops, that wasn't dry. I'll come back to that one. Just a nice little float. Doo, doo, doo. That one wasn't quite dry. You're quietly watching. Hi, Liz. And Suzanne. And Leanne. Okay, I think that's all right. There we go. So I got a nice little float of orange on that side. And then I get to use my favorite color. I love this. Absolutely love this for flowers, for all sorts of things. But this is Tea Berry. This was a new color in 2025. And this one, the color number is DA419. I love it. Well, I keep watching for a question. Renee used to read all the questions for me, but he has other things he has to do while I'm doing this. So, oh, I'm sorry, Eileen. I'm sorry I missed your question. How often do I clean my mop? probably, I think I've cleaned this twice in the last 10 years. Honestly, I don't clean it very often. And usually when I do, I actually use shampoo to clean this one. I found that because it's just picking up a small amount of color, I'm not really worried about it, but I use the shampoo to clean it. I will rinse it very, very well. I also condition it because this is a natural hair on this one. So I'll put a little conditioner in it, let it sit for a bit, rinse it out in cool water. I press the water out of it, fluff it up, and I either hang it or lay it flat to dry. But honestly, I think I've cleaned it twice in about the last 10 years. It just doesn't need to get cleaned that much. So I'm using a little bit of tea berry, and we're going to put just, I got way too much on there. Here we go. I'm going to put just a little float of tea berry on each petal, close to the center of the flower. And it's a weak float. I'm not using a ton of color. But it just gives these little flowers a little depth right at the center, so they don't look flat. So it's just a little tiny float very close to the center of the flower, like so. And it also helps you separate wherever the flowers overlap a little bit, where the petals overlap. I think white flowers need to have some kind of color to enhance them. Most of the time, if I'm painting white flowers, I use a little bit of Bahama blue, and that, for me, that gives it that cool white. Thank you. You're welcome. Anytime you're working with a natural hairbrush, make sure that you clean it with something gentle. Stay away from anything with alcohol base in it. It tends to make the hairs very brittle. If you're going to clean a natural hairbrush, clean it with a good quality brush cleaner, something with a little oil in it, if you can. I love Jack's Studio soap, personally. I think it's a fantastic product. But you do have to rinse the brush very, very well when you're working with acrylics, because it does contain an oil. Could I show you how you did the flowers again? Absolutely. I'll grab a piece of cardstock here. And I'm going to move this off to the side and just quickly demonstrate how this is done. So I'm going to grab a pencil, and I'll quickly put a little center. These will be rudimentary, but you'll get the point. So, basic flower, super simple. Warm white, load it up. You don't want it full strength. Throw a little glaze in it, something to keep the paint moving. And you're going to do each petal as a series of comma strokes. On the outside of the petal, like that. And then one right down the middle. Outside of the petal, one in each direction, and straight down the middle. So that comma stroke, doing one on either side, I can do them upside down too. I've been doing this a while. So that is your basic 5-petal flower. And I use this a lot. I use it for a variety of things. And you can do these in layers. So if you wanted to bring in another color, let's say a little bit of tea berry, and shorten the stroke, do it that way. You can layer colors on top, one after the other. And then get into your white. That 3-stroke method gives you all of those texture lines that go into the same, in towards the center of the flower. So each petal is a comma stroke like this. Pull it back towards the center, always back towards the center. You can abbreviate the stroke too, if you want a rounder petal. Super simple. So press down, pull it back towards the center, press down, pull back towards the center, and one down the middle. It's the ideal way. Super easy way to paint flower petals. You're going to separate them with shading and highlighting, etc. anyway, so the strokes work for base coating that in, but it also helps you get those nice translucent petals. So look how pretty. Nice, delicate. Look at the texture. Lots and lots of texture in there. So if you really want to amp up these flowers a little bit, this is where your titanium white would come in. So if you really want them brighter, you can lean into a little bit of titanium white. Now, I have a little bit right here. So I'll show you what I mean. So titanium white is probably the whitest white. It is the whitest of the whites. Warm white is a little creamier. So I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white. You want to amp up the edges of these petals. You can take a little bit of titanium white. Let's see if I float this in. And you can put a little float of that brighter white at the edge of the petals. Small little float, but it brightens the edge of the flower. So you can do it either way. If you like the texture look at the outside, leave them alone. If you want them brighter, or if you feel they're a little mousy looking, go and get yourself some titanium white. A little float at the edge of the petals will make them pop. And you just follow the shape of the petal. Little tiny float just at the edge. So all of a sudden we've got a nice crisp edge on those flowers. And you've got a brighter highlight. So now you've got this nice bright edge on your flower. That's about the only time that I ever use titanium white. I just find it's too bright. So we've got pretty. So our next step is to do the surround around the flowers, around the center of the flowers, and that's done with a little bit of margarita and a little bit of warm white. Now you could also use a brighter yellow. I like the margarita. I find that the margarita actually gives me what I want. So I'm going to go right on the edge of that yellow portion with a series of dip dots of margarita, just like that. That's it, that's all. Now, if your flowers are really white, you can do this with using a little more white, a little titanium white. I like the green myself. Super simple. So I'm going to dry this, and then you can use your black pen to add a little bit of detail to the centers, which is what I've done. But before I do, I want to shade behind one of these flowers. I've got a little spot there I'm not happy with. So out comes my asphaltum. little place right here. I need to separate these just a scooch. There. They just needed a little shadow back there. Same here. Little bit here. Those little shadows, and they're just little, they're nothing fancy, will make a world of difference. There we go. It's just enough to push those flowers back just a little. So I'm going to dry this, and it's time to start doing some fun little detailing. I love this part, because for me, this is where everything comes together. So I have my 10-aught liner, which I love. I'm going to take a little bit of margarita. I'm going to thin it out quite a bit. I don't want it fully opaque, and I don't want it heavy. I want this really fine. So I'm going to add a little detail to the edges of my leaves. And that detail is just a squiggly little line of that thinned green. And if you've painted any of my things, you know that I do this to almost every leaf. But I also don't want it to be really heavy. It doesn't need to be fully opaque. It doesn't need to be right on the edge of the leaf. It's just going to soften the overall effect of these leaves. It makes them a little more delicate looking. And I love how they look. And I can also give things a little stroke of a highlight down the center. And as I said, none of it needs to be perfect. I love that little curlicue at the tip of the leaf too. So if you have really rough edges, if you're not happy with your leaves and you think that, those rough edges just aren't any good. I love the rough edges personally. I think that the rough edges are what make these look so great. And I love this little, irregular line, that little stroke of highlight right at the top, the highest point of each of those leaves. They look so pretty. And then we have these ones out here. Remember these ones? We're going to highlight the tips of those with a little bit of margarita. These are the ones that didn't get any special treatment. All they got was the shading at the bottom. So we're going to take a little bit of that margarita out to the tip of the leaf, like so. Essentially, it's a U-shaped float, just like the one we shaded with. But it puts a little highlight at the tip of the leaf. And it's a soft highlight. Look at that. So with that done, we can take that margarita and that tiny bit of warm white, a little glaze, and I can stroke in the leaves, and I can give that a little center vein. Like so. And that little tendril. I love a tendril. So when you do that edge on that leaf, you start on that line on the center. And make your squiggly line on the outside of the leaf. Oopsie. I had a little too much paint in that one. Best piece of advice I ever got about using a liner brush was don't look where you are, look where you're going. It's like driving a car, right? Look where you're going. So when you do those curlicues, everybody panics when it comes time to do them. I just start somewhere and come out here and just move the brush. I know where I want to go. So there is your vines and your tendrils and those pretty little details on the edges of the leaves. I love those little details. It makes such a difference to the end result. The leaves look sharp and delicate, like they've got a razored edge or a serrated edge on them. And so they look delicate and full and very pretty. And because we've done the leaves that way, we want to do our flowers that way as well. So I've got my black gel pen. I just want to put a little detail on the leaves. So it's a tiny little line. And then I usually put 2 little shorter lines on either side of it. Tiny, tiny. Don't worry too much about making them perfect. They don't need to be heavy. They don't need to be elaborate. They definitely don't need to be perfect. It's just a little texture on the petals at the base. Right there. Keep it simple. And a nice light touch goes a long way. You don't have to work hard to do this. All it does is draw the eye towards the center of those flowers. That's it. So we've done that with the black. Now we're going to do the white. I'm using a white gel pen, and I'm just putting that same squiggly line around the petals with a white gel pen. And when I say squiggly, I mean it. It's scribbled. It's imperfect. It's not a solid line either. It just gives the edge of these petals a little irregularity. And that bright white pulls the eye towards these flowers too. I'm a fan. I've never believed that flowers needed to be utterly perfect. Just like I don't believe that anything you paint has to be utterly perfect. I think the imperfections in things are what make them interesting. Just like the quirks and oddities and unusual things about people make them interesting. There we go. So look at that. We've got lemons. We've got bright leaves. And then we've got these beautiful, beautiful butterfly. So I'm going to dry this, and we're going to put on some lettering. Now the font that I chose for this is a handwritten font. And this one just really appealed to me. So essentially, we want this one to be level with the bottom of this piece. And in this particular case, close is close enough. But I made it with this font so that you could put it any way you wanted to. Or you could put it wherever you wanted to. Because that appeals to me too. I like the idea of doing things piecemeal this way so that somebody who's painting it may not, this particular arrangement may not appeal to them so much. Maybe they want to do something different. But I like this handwritten font. I just think that it works really, really well. I think it's pretty. I'm going to use a piece of graphite that doesn't have a lot left in it. Here we go. And I'm going to use my red pen. And trace this one on. The other reason I chose this particular font was quite simply, it has a contemporary vibe to it. I kind of like that juxtaposition between something old world and something a bit more modern. And because it's handwritten, that appeals in a great many ways. It's like, the menu boards you would see in France. They're always handwritten, and that appealed to me. So, which was one of the reasons I decided on this font. It had that very French country vibe to it that really appeals. So I'm going to grab my white Posca pen. As you know, I'm enamored with my Posca pens. I really love the home decor thing lately. This has been a big thing for me. So I'm using, this one is a 0.7 millimeter. This is a really narrow one. It's less than a millimeter wide. I love these. I got this set through Dick Blick. And they're the 0.7 pin type. That's what you have to ask for, the pin type. These things are fantastic. Hope you got the graphite right side up. Oh, I am too. I'm very glad I got it upside right. So the fun part about this is because it's a handwritten font, it's okay if it doesn't look as if it was done by a computer. I'm a fan. I love handwritten fonts. I kind of like that you can incorporate your own handwriting style into this as well. This is actually pretty close to mine, so this one is easy for me. I have always been a big fan of the written word. So I love that contemporary look. I just think it works really nicely with this piece. So I'm going to dry this. And I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to send Renee a text and tell him that we are ready. I want to make sure I don't burn this. Let him know it's wheel time. Wheel time. There we go. It's sent. So we only have two more things to do. I am almost shortchanged you. So that's nice and dry, I hope. I'm going to grab my favorite eraser. I'm going to use a Factus black eraser to remove the graphite lines. If you've painted smoothly, hi Mace, hi Papa Doll. If you've painted smoothly, unlike me, then you've probably painted over your graphite lines, but I have not. So they're still showing. And I want to make sure I don't smear my marker, but there we go. Oh, I did a pretty good job. What do you know? So the last step that we're going to do for this, I'm going to grab my favorite pen and my fugly brush. And the fugly brush, I'm going to a little bit of warm white, and we're going to lightly spatter this because I like it lightly spattered. I do like it. I'm kind of aiming for the outside edge, but if you get some on the lemons, that's okay too. So I'll dry that. And I'm going to use a copper metallic paint pen for the edge and the border. You can use gold. The only reason I'm using copper is because my gold paint pen died. And I had this perfectly good copper one sitting there that I hadn't touched. So I'm going to use that to put my border on. All the way around. To there. And then across the bottom. I love finishing things with these gold paint pens. So once this is dry, you can do the whole edge if you like. But it works exceedingly well. And there we go. Bon appetit. Super easy piece to do. A little bit of work, but easy to do. So there we are. Bon appetit. I hope you guys had fun with this one. I sure did. With a little bit of luck, it's wheel time. I'll pop that. Et voila. Bon appetit. I love the way these look. Gives me that whole boutique or cafe type vibe that seems to be so popular these days. I cannot see. I was looking to see if I could see the chat in here, but I cannot. There it is. Okay. Copper for a kitchen is a nice touch. I agree. I like the copper. Guys, thanks so much for coming and watching. This is always so much fun. I got another home decor piece for you for next week. I think you're really going to enjoy that one. A little more along the Italian theme of things. Are you ready?
They see Maisie butt.
They see Maisie's butt. That's nice. Good thing she has a nice butt.
There she is.
There's Miss Maze. You can keep her attention if you have a ball. So, Renee has the wheel all ready to go. We have prizes all ready to go. Yeah, I'm way ahead of you. Go ahead and spin. We have 2 giveaways today, and they're loaded. We have Dynasty brushes, and we have a fabulous set of drawing pencils in there, and plus some goodies from both Renee and myself in there as well as one of those artist pins. And Jerry Gonzalez Garvin is the winner of the first one. You see a wagging tail. Believe me, it never stops.
Garvin. Go.
And the next one is?
Only doing 2 today?
We're doing 2 today.
Okay. Yeah, she's heading out to the place.
Uh-oh. The place with the thing?
The big ball.
Yep. And
Delgado Sanchez.
Chela Delgado Sanchez. Okay, ladies, don't forget you have to pop over to the website and click on Contact Us and send us your shipping information, please, so that we know where to send your goodies. We only keep the prizes sitting around for 2 weeks. If we don't have your shipping information, we can't send them out. And after 2 weeks, they go back in the bin. So congratulations to Jerry Garvin, sorry, and what is Chela Delgado Sanchez. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this class as much as I did. Hey, I've painted it 5 times now. Yep, 5 times now. Have a great weekend, everyone. And for those of you that are Canadian, have a fantastic Victoria Day weekend. Enjoy it. Hope you have great weather and no snow. It is the May long, or what is affectionately known in New Brunswick as the 2-4 weekend.
Don't
Take
drink
care.
and drive.
Don't drink and drive. All right, guys. We love you. Stay safe.
Pet your dog.
Pet your dog.